Well, folks, thanks for joining us tonight. I titled this talk, Where's the Beef? And other simple questions that are hard to answer. If you're joining us for this is the pre-sale seminar for our spring bull sale and female sale at Leachman Cattle of Colorado. It'll be held in Fort Collins, Colorado, coming up now on March 27th and 28th. That's a Sunday and Monday combination, and we invite you all to come join us in Fort Collins, Colorado, out at our beef barn north of town. And we'll have a female sale on Sunday and then a banquet that night with live country music, and we'll be serving prime strip loin steaks. So it'll be a great atmosphere. That afternoon, we'll sell 225 heifers. And then, of course, the following day, we'll start at 10 a.m. and sell 500 stabilizer bulls. But tonight, we're going to talk about how to select our cow herds. I think as we know today, when you go to buy an animal or a bull or even look at animals, you got a lot of information out there on some of the animals. Of course, other animals have less information. At the end of the day, I think we suffer a little bit from too much information. And so given all that information, all this data that's in these bull sale catalogs and whatnot, what should you be selecting for? Where should you be taking your cow herd? That's the primary question that I want to try to answer tonight. So I titled this, Where's the Beef? And these are hard questions. So I don't need to make light of any of that. These are big decisions. And then, of course, these decisions have long-term ramifications. You make decisions this year, this spring, to buy a bull. That bull's daughters will be in your herd for the next 10 years, and their granddaughters will be in the herd for the next 15 years, and or maybe even a little longer. And so these are big decisions that are important, and they affect the long-term profitability of your cow herd. And of course, that drives not only how much money you make on the cow herd, but also how much enjoyment you get out of it. So let's jump right in and talk about where to go. And I think the first thing always is to answer that first question, which is, what are your goals? And I think, it's some people probably have maybe even written goals for where they want to go with their cow herd. I suspect most of us don't. Most of us have some kind of idea in our head. It might be pretty concrete or it may be a little fuzzy, right? But we want to work on that. And I picked up this off the internet. I like this sign. It's actually, I'm sure, printed. There wouldn't be a real sign like this along the road, but it says, a goal without a plan is just a wish. And so, if you have a goal to build the best cow herd you can, if you don't have a plan on how to get from here to there, it's probably just a wish. It's probably not going to happen. And, so I asked people on this question, are you going, do you have an itinerary mapped out? Do you know where you're going to turn left and right and where you're going? Or are you maybe driving down the road with no plan or worse yet, even with your eyes closed, meaning you're really not certain where you're going at any given point in time? And I suspect a lot of us are in this latter category. It's not fun to think about, but this stuff's complicated. Let's face it. If it was easy, we'd all be doing it and we'd all be doing it right, but it's not easy. And we know that because as we look back in time, we all know that we've put genetics into our cow herd that didn't turn out the way we wanted it, right? We went and bought a bull and his daughters didn't work. They maybe been a variety of reasons they didn't work for us, but they didn't work. We kept a replacement heifer. She had a great mother. She was out of a good bull. We kept her and she turned out badly. How do we avoid those kind of mistakes? Because we all know that cattle breeding's slow. I mean, it's really slow. And so if we take the wrong turn, gosh, will we ever even get to our destination? And so that's what I want you to think about tonight. So what do you select for? I know some people would say structure. I want the bull to move well. I want to have good feet and legs. I know other people, they say when you do surveys, everybody looks at birth weight. Birth weight's the first thing, because who wants calving difficulties? None of us, right? Some people might say growth. I think a lot of people buy on this. I think a lot of people say, oh, that bull had a great big weaning weight or a super yearling weight, or they walked into the pen and he was the biggest bull, or that heifer was the heaviest heifer I had this year and she weaned, you know, heavier than all the other heifer calves. So I'm going to keep her back in my herd because surely she'll do that or her calves will be that heavy. So we select for growth. We like the big weights. That's why the big weights sell more. Some people might be looking at Carcass Merit today. I know a lot of people are selecting for marbling or maybe even muscle or carcass weight. As we did a survey recently, one of the things came back was maternal. Maternal, what are the cows going to be like? That came back as one of the primary drivers, but I think that word gets used a lot, maternal, right? The cow. But what does it really mean? I mean, what do you want the cow to really do? Do you have a plan or are you just wishing that the cow will get good? And so we think about all that, and every one of those things that we select for is going to take us somewhere. And I think too many times we don't really understand where that's going to take us, and that leads to problems. I think on the screen, the strategy that probably leads to the most problems is selecting just for growth, but we'll come back to that in a minute. So what's happening to your cow herd? And here it's a little easier because we see these results, right? I mean, are your cows getting bigger? I think if this was a live audience and I said, how many people in the room think their cows are heavier today than they were 10 years ago, my guess is 70 or 80% of you would raise your hand. And if I asked you, how are they rebreeding? Nobody would want to answer that. But if we had an honest discussion, we might say they're getting harder to rebreed, or we might say we're putting in more feed to get them rebred. Those are probably both true statements today in most cow herds in America. And we're going to talk a little bit about why that is. What about the percent calf crop weaned? This means that this fall, you're going to wean a certain number of calves. How many cows went with the bull last year? And then divide that total weaning weight by that number of cows, or that number of calves by that number of cows will give you your calf crop weaned. If you divide the total pounds by that number of females that went with a bull, that'll give you pounds weaned per cow exposed. Is that really going up? I mean, we got all these EPDs and we're selecting these great genetics. Is your performance going up? Are you producing more pounds of calf on the same amount of feed acreage and purchase feed? I think when a lot of people do the math on that, the answer is not really. So we need to think about that. What about weaning weights? I mean, gosh, we got these great big EPD bulls. I don't think our weaning weights have gone up as much as we thought they would because our environment, the amount of feed that's available to that cow-calf pair, the environment maybe just won't support the expression of those higher growth animals. Don't get me wrong, I believe they are higher growth, but I believe you've got to put a lot of feed in front of them to get that growth. And a lot of commercial ranches, especially in the Western United States, and especially in this last year and a half of drought, we don't have those kind of resources, and we're not seeing those weaning weights. The growth is there, undoubtedly. When those calves go to the feedlot, they grow faster. But I don't know that that did us a lot of good on the ranch. And of course, most of our customers are cow-calf operations, and they sell calves at weaning, as I'm sure most people that are listening in do. So what are your selection goals? And I'm going to make it really pretty simple here and say there's really only 3 options out there, okay? One option is that you select for this maternal, and we're going to talk about what that means. The other option is you select for terminal, and we're going to talk about what that means. And then the third option is you select for balanced, right? And try to do some combination of maternal and terminal. Okay. Ultimately, for me, maternal means the cows are going to make me more money. I'm going to generate more profit on the ranch I own than I currently do. If they do that, I think those cows are maternal. Terminal means those calves are worth more when I sell them, right? they're worth more to the next buyer. And that'll involve a number of traits. We'll talk about that in a minute. The balance tries to put them both together, but fundamentally, this maternal and terminal system is in competition, okay? Those two things butt heads, okay? And I think a lot of us, when we get into the definition of terminal, we'll find out that terminal is not just growth. I mean, a lot of us think terminal, oh, we want the calves to be heavier, but today, feed efficiency is a big deal. And that may or may not come with just selecting for higher growth. And then the other thing that's a big deal is Carcass Merit. Are those cattle going to grade a high percent choice? Are they going to grade CAB? Are they going to grade prime? In the market today, there's tons of money, literally hundreds of dollars per head of money in those higher marbling animals. And so terminal is not just growth, okay? If you're just going for growth, you may be driving a little bit with your eyes closed, because growth and maternal are really antagonistic. And generally, terminal and maternal are antagonistic. Remember, they butt heads. What that means, if you improve one, you probably hurt the other. Or if you improve maternal, you probably hurt terminal and growth. And I think a lot of times, if we're doing that, we don't fully understand how much we gave up on the other side of the ledger. In other words, I encounter guys saying, I'm building the best cow, and they've got some good strategies to do that. And I say, how much less are your steer calves worth than average per pound? And of course, when you say that to a rancher, first of all, step back, because he may take a swing at you, because that's pretty near and dear. I want to raise the best calves I can, and I want them to be worth a lot. But the reality is, if you're just focusing on that cow, the odds that you're making the most valuable calf for the feedlot is not very high, okay? And unfortunately, if you select for growth and terminal, the odds that you're making the best cow is not very high, okay? And part of that reason, let's think about that question we asked earlier about, are your cows bigger and are they harder to breed? And I think most people say yes. And there are a couple reasons for that. And we'll come back to that in a minute, but one of them is growth. As those growth EPDs go up, we make a bigger cow. That bigger cow has a harder time staying rebred with the same amount of feed. And so that's a problem, because that maternal function at its heart is fertility. If your cows aren't fertile, they're not going to be maternal. So let's come back to that here in a minute. Let's talk about the terminal profit drivers. These are probably the easiest, probably not any big surprises here. This drives what your calf is worth at weaning. We go back to a great database that we got from Warren Weibert at Decatur County Feed Yard nearly 10 years ago. And this data, we analyzed it. It was 185,000 calves from 2,500 different groups of calves from ranches. And the profitability between the groups, not between individual calves, between groups, ranged as much as $600 independent of weight. So if we adjusted them all to the same end weight, and on a 650-pound calf, some of those calves were worth 50 cents a pound above average, and some of those cattle, those groups, were worth 50 cents a pound under average. And that was back with $3.50 bushel corn. Of course, today it's even more significant. And what was the number one driver of this huge difference in what that 650-pound steer was worth? The huge driver was feed conversion. What did it cost to put on a pound of live weight gain? That was the number one driver at $3.50 corn. Imagine it today as we're over $5 on corn. This is a huge, huge driver. I would suspect that today that feed conversion would make up over 50% of the profit driver, okay? We're talking about not how fast they gain, but how many pounds of dry matter did it take to make 1 pound of live weight? Normally, we talk about numbers like 6 to 1. When we measure that in our bulls, we find bulls that are converting at 3.5 to 1 and bulls that are converting at 11 or 12 to 1. And there are huge differences. And this is important. It shocks me that our industry doesn't measure this more. Still only a fraction of a very small percentage of seed stock breeders measure feed conversion, and it's the #1 driver of what your calf is worth at weaning. The second driver is carcass value. That's marbling and yield, but today it's dominated by marbling, okay? It's 30% of the difference in these groups of calves that we saw. The next big difference is carcass weight, okay? So feed conversion, carcass value, and weight. Today, we have EPDs for all of those, okay? There is a fourth factor, that's health. Health is hard to get our arms around, right? I mean, it's a combination of management. Did you vaccinate them properly? Did you wean them properly? Hopefully you preconditioned those calves before they went to the feedlot. But then it's also, there is a genetic component to that we in the genetics industry are trying to get our hands around, but we don't have good predictors for it. We know we will, because if we look at the dairy industry, they've got predictors now for mastitis. They've got predictors for the healthiness of the feet of the animals. So these traits, they're lowly heritable, but they are heritable. Someday we'll have EPDs for those. But because we have EPDs for the first three, feed conversion, carcass value, both marbling and muscle, and carcass weight, it's pretty easy to find indexes out there. If you want to buy bulls that are going to make your calves worth more at weaning, this is pretty easy to do. You can look at dollar beef in Angus. You can look at Gridmaster in Red Angus. You can look at the terminal index in Simmental, the terminal sire index in Charolais. And of course, if you're shopping at Leachman's or any of our dollar profit share customers, you can look at the dollar feeder number. All of those indexes take into account, to some degree or another, conversion, carcass value, and carcass weight. And so they all work very much the same. And if all you want to do, you say, look, I'm going to go out and buy my females. I just want to make sure that the calves I get out of those females are the most valuable. Select on that terminal index. And of course, if you're selling them at weaning, throw in weaning EPD too, because you want them heavy and worth a lot per pound. And that sums up the terminal side of the equation, okay? But now we're going to talk about the maternal side and why these are in conflict, okay? So what are the drivers for maternal profitability? Well, output matters. What does the calf weigh? And we want more there. And what's the calf worth? And we want more there. And that leads us to think we want to buy those terminal bulls. But the real driver of profit in a cow herd is reproduction, okay? It's not how much those calves weigh. It's how many calves are there relative to the cow herd. And this really gets into some interesting things. We need to stop talking about pounds per head and start talking about pounds per acre. And then we want calving ease. We want a high live calf percentage. We want our heifers to breed up at 15 months. We want the cow to breed back early. We want the cow to stay in the herd for a long time, so we spend less money replacing her. I think it costs between $700 and $1,000 net of the cull cow value to put a heifer into production today. Maybe even more than that, depending on what your cost structure is. So that cow needs to stay longer. She needs to rebreed and stay sound. And finally, the one that very few of us think about, and let me just hide this little button down here because you can't see the screen. The one that we tend not to think about, and that is this: how much does that cow eat? Okay, why does that matter? Well, first of all, feed's expensive, and probably the most expensive feed you have is the land you own. If you lease land, it's a little cheaper than owning it, but we know that owning land in the United States is darn expensive. And because of that, we've got this huge investment in land, and we need to stock it aggressively. Now, my talk tonight's about genetic selection. We could have a whole nother seminar about grazing management, okay? And I think you should be investing time in making sure you do the best you can with grazing management. Because at the end of the day, with that given investment you have in land, if you can run more cows on that same land, you will make more profitability. And the math is shocking on this, okay? If today you're running 100 cows, if you could increase that to 110 cows, you probably double your profitability. I'm not going to go into all that math. Guys like Clay Mathis at the King Ranch Institute of Ranch Management, they do a great job working through that math with people, and I'm pretty sure it's right. So if we want a cow to be what I'm going to define as maternal, which to me means profitable, I want output, but first I want reproduction. Second, I want longevity. And third, I want her to eat less so I can stock the ranch more heavily, literally, so I can run more cows on the same ranch. Now, this is where the rub comes into play, because when we go out and select high growth and or terminal traits, the cows tend to get really big. And let's face it, we all know, we go to the sale barn today, and depending on what part of the country you're in, there are a lot of cows being harvested that weigh more than 1,500 pounds. And since your slaughter steer is only going to get to 1,550, maybe 1,600 pounds, why do you need a 1,500 pound cow? And the answer is you don't. And you certainly don't need 1,600 or 1,700 pound cows. And that's the way so much of the industry is going today, because the cows that make those huge growth terminal bulls are gigantic. They're big cows. They're much bigger than most of the commercial cow-calf producers imagine. They're bigger than the biggest cows you have in your commercial herd today. We know we weigh tens of thousands of cows a year to get our predictions, okay? And we know that these cows get big. So we select these maternal profit drivers. And when we do that, we want to keep the cow moderate. Now, we could have a whole nother day, a whole nother seminar talking about what's the optimal cow size. And I'm going to tell you, it's less than 1,500 pounds. It's probably less than 1,400 pounds. In a lot of environments, it's closer to 1,100 pounds. But when you get down to 1,100 pounds, it's hard to make a steer that you calf feed and finish at 1,500. So again, this maternal terminal thing is going to butt heads. It's going to butt heads, and we're going to have a hard time optimizing. Okay, so let's go to the next piece here. And so I think people probably all agree with what's on the screen, and would agree that that's what you want for your cow herd. Okay. The problem is, how do you get it, right? This goes back to our plan. I think most ranchers say, I want to build a maternally profitable cow herd because that's going to keep me in business. And I'd like the calves to be worth more, but mostly I want the maternal. Now I got this idea of this goal of where I want to go, but if I don't have a good plan, it's just a wish. So how do you open up a bull sale catalog tomorrow and find the bull that does all of that the best? And I think that's the biggest challenge in the industry. Remember back on the terminal side, I think there's all kinds of predictions that measure that. On the maternal side, it's much more difficult, okay? Two breed associations have probably done the best with this. Simmental has their API, which is a pretty good index, but they don't print mature weight. I don't know why. Maybe they don't think they want to tell you how big the cows are, but I think that's important. It's obviously in the index, but they don't print it or show it. And then Red Angus does a pretty good job with their herd builder index. And both of those indexes have predictions for fertility. And so they're on the right direction, but you don't find them in very many catalogs, and certainly in Angus cattle, they've got a $W and a $1 maternal. But if you select for those indexes, they don't really keep your cows from getting bigger. And so it's a drawback today. So, I think the problem today, for those of you trying to set these goals, we got great EPDs, and EPDs work. If you select for a trait like birth weight and you select low EPDs, you'll get lower birth weights. But it's kind of like these sharpshooter rifles, right? These guns are awesome. I mean, they'll do a grouping this big at 300 yards, but you still got to know what to aim at, right? Look at this, this deer hunter's 8-point trophy wasn't a buck. Oops, he made a mistake. Or this person accidentally shot this bull elk thinking it was a really big whitetail. Whoops, Abby, that was a big mistake. Or then there was this guy who shot a truck thinking it was a deer. So I hope we do better than that with our selection, but I'm making the point, even though we have great EPDs, we still got to have that goal. We got to have that plan on how we're going to get from where we are to where we're going. And I think a lot of selection plans end up in a big wreck, okay? And this is not new to beef cattle. It happened in chickens, it happened in pigs, it happened in dairy cows. We got these great selection models. We can move things really fast. And we ended up with some unintended consequences. In a way, the acceleration exceeded our steering capabilities and we went off the road and we wrecked. And I think that's particularly the case, you know, with visual selection, it was a little safer. We weren't making much changes. We weren't really changing cattle that much. Now we have these EPDs, and if you're using those EPDs to select for growth and more pounds, that's tough. It's tough on your maternal herd. Maybe you're using terminal indexes to get more revenue like those we talked about. Maybe you're breeding up to Angus to make your calves easier to sell. But I think every one of those strategies, well, the first one doesn't go very far. If you're selecting for more pounds, your cows probably get too big. If you're selecting just on terminal indexes, I find that very detrimental to fertility. If you're breeding up to Angus, you're probably getting higher growth, more milk, more mature size, and less hybrid vigor. That doesn't bode well for pounds weaned per cow exposed or that maternal profit function. So there's got to be a better way. And we've been working on this, for about 19 years now. We started out one day, Dallas Horton, my partner, back in 2003, said to me, we need to know which bulls make the most money. And I said, well, I don't know how to answer that question, but I do know some guys who can help us. And so we started working with a group out of Canada, and we came up with 3 indexes. And the most important one is Dollar Ranch. Dollar Ranch predicts profit from birth through weaning. If you're running a commercial cow-calf operation, selling calves at weaning, Dollar Ranch predicts it. It looks at fertility, milk, and growth. It looks at cow feed intake, and it looks at hybrid vigor. If you select for that index, your cows are going to become more fertile. They're going to milk at a middle level. We don't want that milk too high or too low. If it's too low, we'll wean smaller calves. If it's too high, we'll have a harder time breeding back. We want weaning EPD. We want this weaning EPD to be as high as we can get it. But we want to get that without too much mature weight because we're worried about how much that cow eats because we want to stock more cows. So Dollar Ranch over time will make the cows smaller, and it'll also increase hybrid vigor, okay? And that's how you aim at that maternal function. Like everybody else, we've got a terminal EPD. It's called Dollar Feeder. We put it right down here on the bottom. On this bull, it's 257, okay? That's looking at feed conversion and carcass value and carcass weight. And you'll find bulls that have lots of muscle and marbling and good feed conversion and big carcass weight. They go really well on this Dollar Feeder number. And then we run a dollar profit. And that's for you folks that are retaining ownership. If you own the cattle from consumption through harvest, dollar profit is your number, okay? It puts the two together. Okay, it predicts your bottom line. It is conception to consumption. It'll find the bulls that are good at all that. And just a word, I'll take a break right now and just step off to the side for a side commentary. We put a lot of stuff in our catalog, right? This is what we show on every bull we sell. And I'll just walk you through this. It says this is lot 1. His name is Leachman Jesse James. He's registered in our herd book, but not with any breed association. He's 70% British and 27% Continental. He's born on January 25th of 2021. BBK means he's homozygous black. He's AI sired. His sex is male or bull. He's homozygous polled. He was raised in the Lambert cooperator herd, and you'll find him when you come to the sale in pen 21. This, of course, is his pedigree in the middle. Then we've got this whole line of EPDs: birth weight, weaning weight, yearling weight, milk, IMF, which is the same as marbling, ribeye area, mature weight, which is a prediction of the cow weight, feed to gain, that's feed conversion. Negative is better because it takes less feed per pound of gain. Then just absolutely how much did they eat? 8, this is over 100 days. 8's very low, 40's average. What's the prediction to how tall this bull is, yearling height, and also scrotal, okay? And then when we do something interesting, if you don't like numbers, and I think there's a lot of ranchers that don't like numbers, we put stars over here, okay? If you're buying a calving ease bull for heifers, they need 3, 4, or 5 stars. If you look at a bull in our catalog and there's no stars, please do not put them on heifers, okay? Then there's growth. More stars means more growth. Maternal is looking at that whole maternal function. It's looking at ranch, and then we also add in teat and udder score, and we also add in fertility, okay? So we're looking at all of those. We're looking at ranch, teat and udder, and fertility. You could say we're double counting fertility, but I think that's a good thing to be doing. And the more stars there, the better, okay? These bulls that are 4 and 5 star maternal, they'll raise some of the best cows you've ever had. Now, if you're terminal cross, you buy your females, just look at this feed carcass. If it's 5 stars, this bull's gonna hit home runs in the feedlot. Then we give you a subjective score on phenotype. If we like the bull, he gets a lot of stars. If we don't like him very much, if we think he's ugly, he gets very few stars. We score disposition 1 to 5, okay? A 5, you can walk up and scratch. A 4, when you put him in a tight quarters, is still very quiet. A 3 wants to get away. Anything under a 3 makes me as a person in with them nervous. And then we do pulmonary artery pressure. I won't go into that tonight, but if you're ranching at altitude, this should be one of the very first EPDs you look at. Also affects health in the feedlot. Now, then we look up here, somebody's people ask, what's this FT? That means we measured the individual feed intake on this bull. Almost most of the bulls in our sale have this. If the bull wasn't measured, it's not on there. All these bulls are genomically tested. And then this bull, he gets a 4.5 star all around. We'll come back and explain that later. He's the 8th highest bull in the sale on profit. He's the 20th highest on dollar feeder. He's in the top 0.1% for ribeye and marbling. He's 4 stars teat and udder and 4 stars on Zoetis's fertility EPD that predicts lifetime number of calves. So that's just a quickie on the catalog. Let's get back to these indexes and how you put these to work in your cow herd. When you go through a typical catalog, even if bulls don't have these indexes, most bulls fall into one of 2 categories. They're either maternal or they're terminal. You guys know the seed stock guys out there just selecting for maternal. They harp about how the fleshing ability of a cow and how moderate that cow is. They maybe don't have good EPDs to predict that stuff, but they are selecting a type and kind that fits what we think is going to be maternal. Okay, we put a little more numbers and math and data to that. This lot 466, look, he's 4 star maternal. So he's super high on ranch. He's really good on teat and udder, and he's really good on Zoetis's fertility EPD. Okay, he's maternal. Now, why do I say he's not balanced? He's maternal. Well, he on the feedlot carcass, he's just average. Now, let me tell you, a high maternal bull who's average on feedlot and carcass, pretty good bull, because most maternal bulls you find on the industry will be 1 or 2 stars on feedlot and carcass. They just won't do what you want them to do on feedlot and carcass. That's the hardest thing to put those 2 together. The bull on the right is actually more typical of what you'll find out in the industry. Here's a really high growth bull, 5 star growth, big weaning and yearling EPD, big dollar feeder, 5 stars feedlot and carcass, but he's only average on maternal, okay? Now, his ranch, these cows are going to get big. His mature weight's pretty high. They're going to get big. So his ranch is low, but he's a really good teat and udder and a really good fertility. So we still gave him 3 stars on maternal. If he didn't have the good teat and udder and the good fertility, he'd be 2 or 1 stars. And a lot of the bulls out there you look at that are terminal, they're going to produce cows that are too big, that are not good on fertility, and heaven forbid, maybe even not good on teat and udder. So most bulls fall into this category of either being maternal or being terminal. And in our catalog, to make it easier, if they're really good at maternal and average or less on terminal, we call them a maternal specialist. If they're really good at terminal and they're average or less on maternal, we call them a terminal specialist, okay? So if you want to build great maternal cows, don't buy a terminal specialist, okay? Don't buy those, okay? Now we have some bulls that do it all. This back to the lot 1 bull. He's lot 1. Of course he does it all. He's high on ranch, he's high on maternal, and he's high on feedlot and carcass, okay? You see he's 4-star maternal and 5-star carcass. We call him a 4.5 all around, because when we average these 2, he's 4.5. Any bull that's 4 or higher on both maternal and carcass, we call an all around. Those are the bulls, if you say, I'm gonna pick that balanced target, these all-around bulls are the best bulls we're selling. I think they're the hardest bulls to find in the industry, and we'll offer more of them in our sale than anybody else has, okay? It's just what we've been selecting for. We select high profit, high ranch. And when you have high profit and high ranch, you find a lot of all-around bulls, okay? So what's going on, Lee? Why is this happening? Well, here's a look back into time. Here's 2010, our average sale bull. He was 11,000 on profit, 45 on ranch, and 100 on feeder. Fast forward 11 years later, we've lowered the birth weight, increased weaning and yearling. Milk has stayed the same. Why? Because I think 25 pounds is about the right amount of milk EPD. These cattle with 30 and 40 pounds of milk EPD, they're hard to rebreed. These cattle with 10 or 15 or less on milk, they're hard to get a good calf. Then look at this. Look what's happened to our fertility EPD from 2010 to 2021. We're up from 1.5 to 2.1. That's almost 0.6 of a calf more. So that's in the average daughter's life. We think they'll stay in the herd for 0.6 of a more of a calf, okay? That's a big shift. Those cows not only are more fertile, even though this growth is higher, they're actually smaller today than they were 11 years ago. They eat a tick more feed, but because of their growth, they convert better. Their marbling is much higher. Their ribeye is much higher. Their back fat is a little bit higher. Why, Lee, do they have more back fat? These cattle in the feedlot, you don't want them to get too fat. Well, on that maternal function, to get that fertility, we need a little more back fat. Because we've changed those EPDs directionally, we've increased profit substantially. This is calculated on 100 head. So the difference between 22,000 and 11,000 is $11,000 divided by 100 head. I got to do that math in my head real quick. That's $100 a head difference over 11 years. That's what's happening in our selection system. If you look back over the last 10 years, we're increasing the value by about $10 per calf a year. Part of that's in ranch. This is value per cow per year. And a lot of it's in feeder. The feeder calves are worth more. Now let's step back and compare that to the average EPD in the Angus breed. They've got more birth weight, which also translates into more mature size. Birth weight and mature size are highly correlated. They've got much less fertility. Why? These are stabilizers. They're hybrids. They're going to be more fertile because of hybrid vigor, and they're selected for higher fertility. The Angus have more straight out growth, but I don't know that that's going to fix your maternal problem. About the same on milk. Intake. The average Angus, to get that growth, has much more feed intake and poorer feed conversion. They've got about the same amount of marbling. They have less ribeye. They have more back fat. Good thing. If these Angus cattle didn't have that back fat, they'd be really hard to rebreed. they're lower on ranch, they're lower on profit, they're lower on feeder. Now, you can go out and find Angus bulls that are off the charts on dollar feeder. I think we all know there are herds that are doing an excellent job selecting for growth and carcass in the Angus breed, okay? But when we do that, when we plug in the numbers on those bulls, sometimes this dollar ranch number will drop to zero, sometimes even negative. It's shocking, okay? And there are some really high profit bulls out there that are terminal bulls and not good maternal bulls. And unless you have dollar ranch or a good fertility prediction, you just can't identify those bulls. So you're trading off weaning weight that you may or may not get because your environment may not let it be expressed. And what are you getting for that added growth? You're getting lower fertility, which means you're going to have less calves to sell out of the same number of cows down the road. And those cows are going to be bigger and they're going to take more feed. And you're probably going to have to run fewer of them or buy in a supplemental feed. So it's not a good strategy. This is the toughest thing to get people to understand. But multi-trait selection works. With dollar profit, ranch, and feeder, you can see what's happening on every bull. Most Angus herds are chasing growth out there. Like I said, a lot of them are improving carcass, but they're decreasing dollar ranch and fertility. Now, I want to tell you about something that's really exciting. In the seminar, I keep coming back to this. I think this is the biggest thing going on right now in the industry. It's the idea of DNA, right? Everybody's using DNA. We teamed up with Zoetis a couple of years ago to put the DNA to work in our system, right? And when we did that, when we teamed up with them, look what happened to how fast we're changing dollar profit. And this is just getting ramped up. Look, when I first came in the industry in the 80s, we had no indexes and we weren't making any progress on profit. Then we started building some indexes and we started making some profit improvements. Then we got dollar profit calculated by the Canadians and the curve got a little steeper, and then we got DNA and look at that thing took off, okay? So DNA makes our selection more accurate. We can predict things in a yearling bull that you won't see in his daughters for years. We can predict udder score. We can predict lifetime fertility. It's a tremendous advantage. Every bull we sell is DNA tested with the 50K test at Zoetis. It makes our EPDs more accurate. It's making us move faster. How much faster? The average sale bull in our sale this year in 2022 has more profit than the AI bulls we used 4 years ago. In other words, we went out in the industry and we picked 20 or 30 bulls to AI to. We picked the highest ones we could find. Our average sale bull is that high right now. It's unbelievable, the genetic progress that's being made today. Now, you say, gosh, Leachman, you're just trying to sell your bulls. And I am trying to sell my bulls. That's just part of what we do. But this stuff works. And I want to show you. Here's a herd in Montana. We've used this chart a lot. They started using our bulls in 2008 after using Angus. And their pounds weaned per cow exposed went up 12% over a 10-year period. They've also decreased cow size and increased stocking rate. They select high dollar ranch stabilizer bulls. We asked the DNA, can the DNA predict what's going to happen in the feedlot? Yeah, it can. We did a really cool study with the help of Zoetis. We DNA typed 2,428 animals from 19 different herds in 11 states. They were all calves being finished in Lincoln County Feed Yard. They were all harvested at Cargill's plant in Fort Morgan. And we took DNA on them all. On those 2,428, the average dollar feeder was 82, okay? The top 1%, so the top 25 calves, the average dollar feeder was 226. So I asked, and look, the DNA was run before the carcass data. So it's not like the carcass data told the DNA what it saw. We said, how well did the DNA predict how good were these $226 feeder animals? Well, when we looked at carcass weight, they finished 48 pounds heavier and they had a 1/2 inch bigger ribeye, okay? Remember, these 25 calves came from a whole bunch of different herds, right? But they were heavier at carcass weight. They had a higher marbling score. They had a higher percent choice. The whole group was pretty good. It was 90% choice. But the group that was that high on feeder was 100% choice. In fact, that group high on feeder was 100% CAB or higher, and 32% of them were prime, compared to 23% and 9% on the average. So we increased carcass weight, and we increased marbling. We increased the value of those animals by $137 a head. Oh, and by the way, they gained more per day, and they had the same number of days on feed. So we produced 48 pounds more carcass weight with the same number of days on feed, and we converted about a half a pound better. So we got $137 more value with the same days on feed, and we had a lower cost to gain. This adds up to almost a couple $100 difference. So a huge difference in dollar feeder. Now the cool thing, so this DNA predicts fertility, it predicts pounds weaned per cow exposed, it predicts carcass. And now you can use this test called Inherit Select, can be purchased from Zoetis and used on your commercial herd. This is going to take a lot of guesswork out of improving your cows. Literally, you'll get a whole set of EPDs on your commercial cows. How do you do that? You go out at branding time or preconditioning time. You take stamps out of the ears, tissue samples on the heifers that you think are the ones that you would consider for replacements. I mean, if you've got a dink or a terribly, an off type or an off kind heifer, don't DNA test her. Test 2/3 or test twice as many heifers as you're going to keep, or test 3 for every 2 you want to keep. Get this information and then make the final selection. Let me show you what you're going to get back. You're going to get genomic tests that come out of our weekly evaluation that are going to help you pick the more profitable heifers. You're going to get dollar ranch and dollar profit and a terminal index, so you can balance your selection on those heifers. You're actually going to get 5 economic indexes, 3 from Zoetis and 2 from Leachman, dollar ranch and dollar feeder. You're going to get 18 EPDs, okay? And these are on all kinds of traits, okay? Like I said, you're going to get dollar ranch and dollar profit. You're going to get a cow fertility EPD. You're going to get an udder score. You're going to get cow size, cow feed intake, fat cover, milk production, and frame. All of these can be used to make good decisions on those cows. You're also going to, I don't even have it up there, you're going to get docility. You probably can tell that by walking through them, but it'll predict the wild ones. You'll also get EPDs for birth, weaning, and yearling, marbling, ribeye, carcass weight, tenderness, and feed conversion, and a foot score, and a scrotal. Don't ask me why we're giving you scrotal EPD on cows, but we generate the EPD, so we give it to you, or Zoetis does. You're going to get the percent rank. Where do they rank on each of those traits? And if the bull is tested in the Zoetis database, you're going to know which calves are out of which sires, okay? You get all that for one DNA test. All of you have considered keeping records, or maybe said, God, records are just a nightmare. I'm not going to keep records. You cannot improve what you do not measure until DNA. And now, without you taking any measurements, you can get predictions on all these traits. It's the best value that's ever come along. It's unbelievable, okay? It's so valuable. We have guys raising their own bulls, and they want to get these EPDs on their bulls, okay? It's so valuable. We have seed stock guys who want to get these values, okay? And then finally, the last thing, and this is super important, you get a prediction of the breed composition, and it also predicts heterosis, okay? So you get a prediction of hybrid vigor in your herd. You'll know, is this female straight Angus, or is she a 3/4 blood, or is she a half blood? Pretty valuable when you want to think about hybrid vigor and the huge impact that it has on longevity and pounds weaned per cow exposed and that whole maternal profit function. What else are you going to get? You're going to have fewer headaches, because we can tell you which of those cows are going to have a lot of calving difficulty. We can tell you which ones are super mean and which ones udders are likely to be broken down. Super helpful. It's a $23 extended warranty on your cows. Now, the test goes for $33 to get all that information. But if you buy it through Leachman Cattle, we give you a $10 rebate. If you're existing customers, you get that rebate back on bulls you've already bought. If you're going to be a future customer, you carry that credit forward and apply that to your future purchases. So for $23, you can get all that information and do a better job predicting females. Now, I'm not going to show the video, but if you want to write that down, or even with your cell phone, take a picture of that address. This is the future, okay? Zoetis, great company we're working with, doing this DNA work. They're working on a system that they call Blockyard. And basically what it is it's a way for you to track all your animal health on your calves and the genetics information on your calves, and put that up in the cloud so that the person buying your calves can look at that same information. This is the future of the industry. I said to people, if you came to one of my talks over the years, you know that for years now, I've been saying someday we're going to walk in with a DNA test that tells you if you have good feeder calves or not. The test Inherit tells you if you have good replacement females or not, but that same DNA predicts whether your feeder calves are going to feed well. We can predict that dollar feeder number. You saw how much difference that created in those 2,400 head we actually fed. Feeders around the country want this kind of information. Zoetis is going to connect them to this information. It will be the future of how cattle are marketed. I don't think it's going to happen overnight, but this is the way it's going. And the way to prepare yourself is to start testing today. I mean, if you're going to do one thing differently this year, go out and run the Inherit test on your replacements and pick them that way. That's the number one thing you can do this year to improve your profitability. That's more important than buying a high profit bull. Testing your heifers, see where you are compared to the industry, see where your strengths are and your weaknesses are, and then figure out a game plan to take you to where you want to go. Okay, this is the beauty, right? Without you keeping any records, you're going to get this DNA information and be able to make change. Now, I will tell you, the only thing better than testing your commercial herd with Inherit is buying a female that's already superior. And we are selling 225 of these coming up. So I thought I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. We're selling 68 yearling black stabilizers. This is the lot 601 heifer. She's exceptional up here in the right. She's $26,000 on dollar profit. She rings all the bells. Let me tell you, in your commercial herd, you don't have one like that. Okay, we know, we've tested lots of them. They're not out there. Okay, and you can step in and you know, when you go buy females, that's one of the chances you get to really move your herd. We're going to sell these heifers this spring. They're all open yearling heifers. We are also going to start selling some bred females this fall that have all this information. So if you're in a position, if you're saying, boy, I need to buy some females this year, why go out and buy average when you can buy stuff that has all this information? And we also are selling 28 fall bred black stabilizers. We're selling 37 of these yearling red stabilizers, if you prefer red, along with 5 fall bred red cows. We're selling 4 yearling Red Angus and 8 fall bred Red Angus and 17 yearling Angus and 30 fall bred Angus cows. This heifer's one of the really good Angus heifers selling. She's $24,000 on dollar profit. This is another stabilizer. This heifer's 72 on dollar ranch. And then we got a great set of Charolais heifers. Now, the Charolais heifers, I mean, they got all the information, but they're obviously selected for terminal traits. They're selected to be low birth, high growth, high marbling, and high feed efficiency. That's what we select our Charolais for. And I mean, there's some really sharp females. And you want to get some heifers to cross with a club calf bull and just make some duns or smokies that'll knock it out of the park. These Charolais will do that. And just if you want to get into the Charolais business, look, Charolais bulls are selling really well today in the industry. We sell about 70 of our own in the fall every year, and they were one of our highest selling groups this year. These females will get you started, and we just can't keep all the Charolais Heifers, so we're selling 25 of them, and this is the whole 225. Now remember, these heifers will sell on Sunday starting at 1 p.m. March 27th. That sale will be broadcast on Superior. The entire sale will be broadcast on Superior. All these videos for these heifers are up on Superior. Go to the Superior Livestock page, click on the sale date for Sunday, March 27th, and it'll take you to videos of all 225 females selling. So we've been through a lot here. I want to recap because I don't want to lose sight of where we were going. So given all this, what should you select for in your own herd? You know, I think everybody's herd's different and everybody's strengths and weaknesses are different. So you got to make up your mind on this yourself, okay? The easy answer for me to say is select for balance. Why? Because I think sooner or later, if you raise just maternal, your calves are going to be discounted at weaning. So if you want to raise balance, the simple thing, this is the simplest thing to do. Buy bulls with 3 or more stars on both maternal and feedlot. If you can afford it, buy the all-round bulls that are 4 or more stars, but they're probably going to be a little more expensive. The 3 or more stars means you're above average on both sides. You know, I mean, there's nothing wrong with being above average, right? 95% of the bulls in our sale, not in all sales, but in our sale, in the 2022 spring sale, 95% of the bulls are 3 or more stars on both traits, okay? 95%. Why? Because maternal plus feedlot equals profit, and we select for profit, okay? We select for this. It's that 11-year progress we made, right? And I mean, as you look around, no other sale in the country is going to give you that combination because nobody has that much dollar ranch and that much dollar profit. If you look, you know, dollar profit's the industry's best indicator of conception to harvest profit. Our average sale bull ranks in the top 2% of the industry. That's a 22,000, right? Our lowest spring sale stabilizer still in the top 6. Whoop, I went to the wrong slide. Whoop, there was supposed to be another deal there. It won't come up. Sorry. This line here is at 6%. That's 16,000 on dollar profit. I tell people every bull in the industry has some kind of dollar profit. Okay, every bull in the industry. The average in the industry is about 6,700. Some bulls are below that. Some bulls are above that. But the bulls we're selling are way up at the top of the pyramid. And that's why 95% of them are above average for both maternal and terminal traits. Now, I think the second option, you may say, Lee, the heck with the terminal traits. I just want to make good cows. No other sale offers you the kind of information we have in our book. I mean, we've got that Zoetis Fertility EPD, we've got that udder EPD, and we've got that dollar ranch index. And that's a powerful combination, fertility, udder quality, and dollar ranch. When you buy bulls that are good on all 3 of those, you are going to love the daughters. You know, we've been selling high ranch for a while, but it's no secret. We had some bulls that had lower udder quality and lower fertility than we liked. Now we've got these EPDs for these traits. These bulls are better than any bulls we've ever sold for udder quality and fertility. It's phenomenal. If you buy bulls with 4 or more maternal stars, still try to keep the feeder as high as you can afford. But if you buy bulls with 4 or more maternal stars, you will build a great maternal cow herd. You'll build the kind of cow herd that make your neighbors envious. And we've all seen these herds. We know these herds are around. Now you can do it quickly and scientifically. It's phenomenal. And that includes, just so you know, 4 or more stars would be all the maternal specialists and all the all-around bulls. So in our catalog, there are 382 bulls that are 4 stars or more on maternal. I mean, it's knee deep with good maternal bulls. Unbelievable offering, strongest we've ever had by a country mile. Now, you may say, well, gosh, Lee, you've sold me so much on that maternal. Why are you even going to talk about this terminal? Well, these terminal calves, they're going to be worth more to the feedlot. And every rancher I've ever met wants to go to the cafe and say, hey, my calves sold at the top of the sale, right? Well, these 4-star and higher feed carcass or dollar feeder bulls, they do that. Feed carcass is shorthand for feedlot and carcass, which is predicted by dollar feeder. Dollar feeder includes feed conversion, carcass weight, and carcass value. All terminal specialists and all around bulls are 4-star or higher. So there's 524 bulls in the sale that are 4-star or higher on terminal. Lots of terminal bulls. Now, let me give you, if you've listened this long, I'm going to give you a little secret, okay? Here's the little secret. If you test with Inherit and you can identify your top maternal females to keep back, I'd tell you to buy half your bulls terminal and half of them maternal or all around. I would probably, in the perfect scenario, I'd buy half my bulls all around and half of them terminal. Why? Because the terminal bulls, if you DNA test, you won't have to keep their heifers. You'll know if their heifers are going to be good or not on that maternal. And guess what? These terminal bulls are a little bit cheaper. They're a little bit cheaper, especially the terminal specialists. So if it's just a strategy, I might have confused things. If I got you all crazy in the head now, go back to my 3 recommendations. All round's best option, maternal's second best option. If you're buying your heifers, terminal is great. If you want to say Leachman, you know what? Why don't you go find me the best females to buy every fall? And I'm just going to come buy terminal bulls from you and breed them to them. We'll do it. We'll do it. Reach out and contact us. If you're selling at weaning, use the feed carcass stars plus weaning EPD, right? You want them not just valuable, but you want them heavy. So summarizing where we're at in our upcoming offering, we got a lot of top bulls. Why? Because we breed 12,000 cows. We bring 2,750 bulls on test. The oldest and best 500 sell in this sale on March 28th. Tremendous selection pressure. We've already gone over this on where they rank on profit. Here's the big shocker. Everybody out in the industry thinks that our bulls are too expensive, okay? Here's our average price for last year, $4,900. But look within that average. We're selling a ton of bulls under 4,000. Over a third of the bulls we sell for under 4,000. Another 25% sell from 4 to 5, and another 17% sell from 5 to 6. So between $3,000 and $6,000, we're selling about 75% of our bulls in these categories. Yeah, you want to buy one of those top dollar profit bulls that's an all-around leader, you're going to be up in this higher level. You're going to be 6 to, over 10, 15, somewhere up in there. We're going to sell lots of really great bulls in that category. But boy, you're still going to get a top 6% or better bull with Dollar Ranch, with Fertility EPDs, with Underscore EPDs, and we're going to sell 75% of them in that price category. So we, in fact, are so confident about that. We're doing a guarantee, a sight unseen guarantee. We sell a lot of bulls sight unseen. Why? Because people don't want to travel, even more so with COVID going on. And so people call me up and say, Lee, we're not going to come to the sale. Will you buy a bull for us? You can call Lee Leachman and do that. You can call Jared Watson, who's in all of our ads. His phone number is, or you can call any one of our semen reps. If you go to our website, you can find these people. If you get our catalog, their information's in the catalog. If you give us an order between $300 and $5,500 prior to the spring sale, so you got a couple weeks now, we will guarantee that we will get a bull out of the sale or out of our private treaty that ranks in the top 6% of the industry on profit, that fits your goals for maternal, balanced, or terminal, and we guarantee your satisfaction upon delivery. We make buying great bulls easy. That's what we want to do. You don't need to be an expert at all this stuff. Call us, we'll help you with it, okay? Remember the pyramid. We're selling bulls at the top. All the bulls we're selling this spring are over 6, not all, there are some below, but we'll guarantee you we'll get you one in this price range that's in this top sliver of the pyramid. That's our sight unseen guarantee. You get a top 6% bull that has a profit greater than 16.5 that fits your goals, guaranteed. Folks, we're in a challenging industry. The world's a complicated place. It's probably a little more complicated and a little more difficult than we thought it was a few months ago. And we only have to look at the news each day to see that. We're probably distracted by the war right now against the Ukraine, but the reality is that our society and the markets are putting pressure on us. They're making it harder for us to do well. And we feel that. We're in Colorado, for goodness sake. We got some crazy politicians who want to change how we're doing business, or even worse, put us out of business. They sponsor days like Meatless Monday. So there's a lot of pressure right now. We've got systems, not just bulls, not just semen, but systems that will help you improve the efficiency and quality of beef you produce and help you use the best genetics. It's finding the best genetics and having that plan. Remember putting that flag on top of that mountain and having a plan that's going to take you there. We want to help you make that plan. We want to help you make a plan that works. Obviously, Zoetis, a big partner with us on this. We think that use of inherit and buying bulls with these indexes are just two tools that will just radically change how much progress you can make. And at the end of the day, we think our customers lead the industry in producing profitable, tasty, and I put that word sustainable in there. A lot of us cringe at this, but we take care of most of the landscape in this country as ranchers. We can do a terrific job doing that. That's critical. We take care of soil health. We sequester carbon, and we produce a really valuable product. We turn grass into the best protein in the world, okay? And that's sustainable, folks. And we're going to lead the charge or be at the front in discussing why beef is sustainable and beef is a great food product. And we're going to help the beef industry improve with these new tools. And we just invite you to come alongside and learn. You don't have to buy genetics from us. Use the test from Zoetis. Learn from these strategies. Figure out how to set your goals properly. You'll build a better cow herd, and it'll lead to more profitability and a greater legacy for future generations in your business. So that kind of wraps us up, folks, on the slideshow. I'm gonna jump out of that slide deal, and now I'm gonna pick up my cell phone. I know that if you're out there watching on Facebook Live, if you want to type in a question, we welcome you to do that. The first question that came in, Becky's sending me these from Facebook. Thank you, Becky. Is it pounds per acre? Is it net dollars, or is it net dollars per head per acre? And these are great questions. I think at the end of the day, it is really, dollars of revenue per acre that we're after. Pounds per acre is a pretty good measure. It's a lot better measure than pounds per cow, okay? But ultimately, pounds per acre and then how much you get paid per pound does make the difference. So got a great question that came in here about our stabilizers. I didn't spend much time talking about how they're put together. That could be an entire seminar, Becky. We should jot that down. How did we build the stabilizers? So the stabilizer is just a composite. It means we put several breeds together. Today, mostly what's in it is Angus, Simmental, Gelbvieh, and South Devon, with Angus being the biggest chunk. Most of our animals are 3/8 to 5/8 Angus. Then they're about a quarter Simmental or more, and then they're about an eighth or more Gelbvieh, and then the balance is typically South Devon or Hereford or Shorthorn. We put a lot of different breeds in there. That let us go out into the industry and find the best purebreds and hybrids and mix them together. And we've been doing that since the early 1970s. So that this is literally a 50-year crossbreeding experiment, if you will, that's been going on in our family. I just did a blog for Jim Johnson. If you listen to blogs, call up his blog is called Brands and barbed wire. And I just did a little history recount, so it's fresh on my mind. But in the early 1970s, my father started crossing all kinds of continental cattle on British cattle, and we built our experience from that. So we do use purebreds and hybrids in our stabilizers. Increasingly, we're using in-system bulls to produce the future generation. If you're coming into our sale this spring, there's 12 bulls from the spring sale that we're collecting for use back in the program. And 75% or more of the bulls we sell 2 years from now will be out of yearlings from that offering, because that's we put our confidence in those bulls. We trust in that's what we do. Another comment or question came in. Oh, a nice comment. Thanks, Curtis. Curtis from West Virginia wrote in. He says, I got several Leachman bulls, and they're working on my cows, and they're adding pounds, and they're producing great replacement females. We appreciate that, Curtis. You know, if you're in the bull business, you get a lot of bad calls, right? I bought your bull and he got hurt. I bought your bull and something went wrong. I mean, we have these things. That's why we have a breeding season guarantee on every bull we sell. If you take that bull home, turn him out, and something happens, anything happens, follow the terms of the warranty, call us back. You're going to get purchase price, less 25% for turning him out, less salvage, and you get that credit. I think it's as good a credits as out there. We cover everything. So that's a big part of our guarantee out there. Remember the dates for the upcoming event: 225 females on Sunday, March 27th at 1 p.m., 500 stabilizer bulls on Monday, March 28th. And we look forward to having you join us there. We will continue taking questions if people want, but thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us tonight. And we really appreciate the fact you were here with us. So thank you. Did have a question come in. What's beef on dairy going to do the average cowman? Well, the good thing is that only about 15% of the fed cattle in the U.S. are beef on dairy. I guess those beef on dairy are going to get better than the dairy were at doing beef. But I think the overall thing that's going to happen is our beef product offered to consumers overall is going to improve. I think long term, there's still going to be 30 million beef cows in the United States, and there's going to be 9 million or less dairy cows. In fact, the most likely thing is the number of dairy cows is going to continue to shrink because we get more milk. Every year we get more milk out of fewer dairy cows. That's what selection's doing in the dairy cow. Unfortunately, that selection for milk makes those dairy cows not very good at making beef. And so the industry said to the dairy industry, stop sending us male dairy calves. Use that sex semen to make all your replacement cows out of sex semen. Breed the rest of your cows to beef bulls. Oh, a side note on that, stabilizer is one of the best beef bulls you can use on your dairy cows, but that's for another day's discussion, folks. So we'll leave it there. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I will probably go ahead and wrap up for now. Reach out and contact us at leachman.com or through Facebook, or call our office at 970-568-3983. Also, if you want a little more follow up on this, we did just do an American Rancher show, and you can find that at our website. This program as well will be recorded there. Thank you very much.